Alrighty, welcome back everyone. I just gave all of my SEC picks for this upcoming year, and yes, I do have Georgia winning that conference. I understand it's a hard schedule. They're the best team. I have no problem saying that, and I do think they're going to end up taking home the hardware at the end of the year. But let's get into a little bit of a recruiting update, and we'll stick in the SEC just here for a little bit because the Auburn Tigers and the Tennessee Volunteers have been doing work on the recruiting trail, and we got to talk about it because these are two programs that can build into something really special if they continue this. But let's jump into this and let's talk about, first of all, let's get into Auburn because they are a team that just tore up this weekend. It's absolutely incredible the number of people that they brought in, and they brought in a couple of them from their foe in Alabama. But let's jump into this, and Shadarius Tootle is someone that's very, very talented, four-star linebacker that they just got committed. He had offers from A&M, Ohio State, among many others, top 5 linebacker in the class of 2026, so a little bit further down the road, but still a very, very talented guy, and definitely someone that can play pretty much immediately when he shows up on campus at Auburn. Definitely a really talented person and cannot wait to see him in Auburn colors, although it's going to take a little time to get there. Blake Woodby is another guy that I'm watching very closely. He committed to Auburn this past week and a very, very talented kid. Had offers from Maryland and Oregon, is from Baltimore, so that was where the Maryland kind of tie was coming in, and this is a guy that was formerly committed to Ohio State, so stealing someone from Ohio State never hurts too bad, that's for sure. That's definitely someone that it's definitely someone that Ohio State was looking at as possibly someone that could come in and start with a lot of guys leaving next year. Likely will be the same exact thing for Auburn, so a huge pickup for the Tigers there. Antonio Coleman is one of the weirdest recruitments in the cycle right now, but he has committed to Auburn, decommitted from Alabama to Auburn, and that's the second time he's done this. He committed to Alabama, committed to Auburn, decommitted from Auburn, committed back to Alabama, and is now decommitted from Alabama and committed back to Auburn. So he's bounced back and forth quite a bit in the state of Alabama, but a very talented defensive lineman from Saraland High School, where a ton of really talented guys in Alabama are coming out of this year. KJ Lacey, the big-time quarterback, being probably the main among them, along with Ryan Williams, who is now at Alabama this year, but was a very talented guy at that school a year ago. So this is a very weird recruitment, and you might want to keep your eyes on this one until the very finish line, but as of right now, a big-time win for the Tigers. The other one they stole from Alabama was Derek Smith. He flipped his commitment, an elite athlete in this class, the number 2 athlete in the 2025 class behind Michael Terry III, a very talented guy in his own right, but this is huge. This is one of those guys that likely they wouldn't even be in the battle for a couple of years ago with Nick Saban at the helm and with so many different things heading in Alabama's direction. I don't know if they would even have a shot here, but now they do, and it's one of the big-time things that has been changing around there and something that they're going to develop into just a ridiculous recruiting power if they can keep this going. They also added the number 16 recruit in the 2026 class, Hezzy Harris, a very talented edge rusher, and then you have 4-star linebacker JaMychal Garrett that they also... JaMychal Garrett that they added to the 2026 class. Both very, very talented guys, so Auburn just clicking on all cylinders, and then they added Anquan Fagans just for good measure. Last night they picked up Anquan Fagans from they beat out LSU, they beat out Georgia. This is a top 60 recruit, number 5 safety in the class. This is a really talented kid, and Auburn's all the way up to number 6 class in the country, or number 5, depending on where you look. Hugh Freeze and company are locking down Alabama in a way that they haven't in quite some time around Auburn, so a lot of things moving in the right direction for the Tigers, and if that's the case, then Auburn's not going to be a team that you don't have to worry about in the SEC much longer. I can promise you that. Tennessee is also on an absolute tear on the recruiting trail. They've been doing incredible work over the last couple of cycles, but especially this one, they've just been doing incredible work, and Lagonza Hayward is another addition to that. A 6'1", 205 safety, very talented kid out of Lyons, Georgia, the number 4 safety in this class. A very, very talented kid, someone that can totally dominate at pretty much any level you put him on, and frankly, going into Georgia and stealing a guy like this is absolutely huge for Tennessee and something that they very much need to do more often. They've been attacking the defensive side of the ball just incredibly well this class, so cannot wait to see what they kind of develop into over the next little bit. They also added Deshaun Bram, a very, very talented kid. He was committed to Oregon, decommitted, and committed to Tennessee, and this is a 6'6", 230 tight end, so a big-time player, someone that absolutely is going to be a huge help to them pretty much the second that he steps on campus. I think he will likely start next year and will be a big-time player for them, so they're one of those teams that absolutely is doing really good work, and Oregon, not necessarily doing quite as good work. They have lost a couple of commitments here recently that definitely hit a little bit harder, and this is one of them. Josiah Sharman, the four-star defensive lineman, was committed to Oregon, is now committed to Texas. An absolutely huge get for Texas at a position where they very much needed to make up ground. Defensive line was not looking too great at the time, but Kenny Baker gets his first big-time win. This guy is a top 150 recruit in this class, a very, very talented guy, and someone that Texas really, really wanted the first time around and finally got him to decommit and come on over to Austin. So a huge pickup for them. And then you have Malik Clark, a four-star wide receiver that he is committed to Florida State. The wide receiver class that Florida State is putting together is just incredible. C.J. Wiley, Dalen McCutcheon, and now Malik Clark. It's ridiculous what they've been able to do, and this guy is really, really talented. 6'3", 185, one of those lengthy, long receivers that Mike Norvell just absolutely loves. I think he's going to be a very talented kid, and probably going to play a part pretty early on because they're going to have a lot of guys leave from that wide receiver room this upcoming year. But overall, the wide receiver class is just absolutely insane, and I expect all of them to make big-time noise at the next level. Jamarian Gordon is a guy I want to talk about because he flipped his commitment from Alabama to UCF. A very, very interesting commitment here. Someone that I don't think anyone really expected, but overall an absolutely massive steal for Gus Malzahn and company. Alabama's been skidding just a little bit in recruiting lately. I'm not necessarily super worried about them by any means, but definitely losing some guys that they would love to keep in the fold. So that's definitely something to watch as we continue on through this cycle. And then we have one more in the 2025 class, and that's JJ Haney. And this is a very interesting one because he's from Berlin, Germany. He's 6'4", 280 defensive lineman, and he is committed to Georgia. This is a very, very interesting addition and one of those really cool stories that'll be really fun to watch throughout the entirety of this thing. And I definitely think it's going to be incredible to watch this thing unfold. But overall, I do think this might just be Trey Scott's masterpiece. We added, there was another player on the offensive line, Jackson. I can't remember his exact name at this moment, but I do think they're bringing in guys that are just physically different, and then they'll figure out the football part a little bit later. This guy's been playing football for about 2 years now, so still plenty of work to be done, but when you can get a guy that has those physical tools, you definitely take the opportunity. And then Tredarian Bell, we'll get into the 2026 class a little bit here. He is committed to Oregon. This is a four-star running back, held offers from pretty much everyone. The main three were Texas, LSU, and USC outside of Oregon, but an absolutely huge pickup out of Texarkana, Texas, and a very, very talented guy, top 5 guy at the running back position in the 2026 class. So just doing incredible work and a really, really talented kid that absolutely adds to what Oregon is already building up there in Eugene. Georgia also had a really good day on the 2026 class. They had Jontavius Wyman, a very talented 4-star corner. This is a guy that they are just absolutely tearing apart right now. When you look at what T-Rob has done since he's shown up at UGA, it's been absolutely ridiculous, and as co-defensive coordinator, as DB coach, he's going to continue to do that. So I don't expect Georgia to ever really struggle in the back end of that defense, but especially now that they have someone like Travarius Robinson in there, I think they're going to do ridiculous things, frankly. And they added another one, Dominic Kelly, a 4-star cornerback in the 2026 class. He flipped from USC to Georgia, and Georgia has been the thorn in USC's side this recruiting class and likely will be going forward. I think there's a couple more here that could be a little bit of trouble for USC going into the next couple of weeks. But overall, it's an incredible pickup for UGA. Definitely someone that they absolutely wanted to get into the fold, and just goes to show you, when you lose someone like Fran Brown, who's so good at recruiting, you can bring in someone like Charvarius Robinson and really not miss a beat by any means. So obviously 2 big-time pickups there, but let's get into some upcoming commitments and some intel on those commitments, and we'll start with Jonah Williams, a 5-star safety that is set to commit on the 24th of August, a very talented kid, number 1 safety in the class from Galveston, Texas. This guy is remarkably talented, and not just in football. He is a ridiculous baseball player, someone that absolutely will get drafted into the MLB next summer, and that's the big question here. I think Texas and LSU are really leading the way in this one with a slight lean to the Tigers, but overall, it could mean nothing. He could get drafted in the MLB, go on to the MLB, and leave college football behind. He could go to college football and play both sports. We'll see what happens. But overall, whoever can get him in their class is going to get a big-time player. And especially if he finally gets on campus, you'll definitely get a big-time player in the back end of your defense. But Let's go to 5-star Elijah Griffin, a very talented defensive lineman. He's officially down to 3 schools, UGA, USC, and Miami. All of them have fairly good shots to make some runs here. I tend to lean UGA is going to win this one out, but overall, a very talented guy. Number 1 defensive lineman in the country, 5-star recruit in 2025, and a very, very talented kid. There's no two ways about that. I think USC is pushing really, really hard, but overall, I do think he will be a Bulldog at the end of the day. Then you have someone like David Sanders Jr. He has been really interesting to watch because I thought it was going to be UGA. I felt pretty confident that it was going to be UGA, and I think they still have a shot here, but Nebraska made up a ton of ground this weekend. Dylan Raiola made a point to make all of the fans come out and see him during his visit, and boy, did they. They definitely came out in force, and I think Nebraska is making a little bit of a push here. Tennessee's still very much in this, as well as Ohio State, so this could go any number of directions, but it'll definitely be a very interesting one to watch as we kind of come to the end of that recruitment. And then Michael Fasusi, another really talented 5-star offensive tackle. This is going to be a Texas OU A&M battle, and frankly, it looks a little bit more Texas OU battle than anything else. I think those two schools are definitely going to be fighting tooth and nail for this kid, and right now I would lean Texas, but Oklahoma's making up a ton of ground very, very quickly, and I think they might just win this one out. Bill Bedenbaugh is a remarkable recruiter, and him and Kyle Flood are going head-to-head right here, so it'll be interesting to see who wins that one out, and definitely will have some bragging rights over the others. But overall, recruiting is absolutely insane. We're going to have some big-time recruitments in August. It feels like a lot of 5-star recruits are trying to get their recruitment done before their senior year, enjoy their senior year, and then enroll early. So we'll definitely see some big-time commitments and some big-time movement in the rankings over the next little bit, and we'll break that down as it comes, obviously. But let's take our last break here, and when we come back, we're just going to do a little kick around, do a little catch-up, do all the big headlines around the sport over the last little bit, give you guys up to date on everything that we just haven't gotten a chance to get really into over the last couple of days. So stick around, and we'll be right back with that.